What's up, world? It's your boy Big Sky here, back with another video for you. Talk about NBA basketball 2020 to 2021. Before we get to all of the good and the bad and the ugly about the league, make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure y'all share the video with everyone, and make sure y'all comment below. And we're going to be talking about more sports content in the near future. Now, the league, the association, whatever you want to call the NBA. The NBA, as we know it, is going through some changes this year. The NBA is always going through changes. The NBA is always having something going on, rather it's trades or kinds of crazy moments. But this one is actually going to be, I'm going to be talking about the Brooklyn Nets and talk about the defending NBA champions, the Los Angeles Lakers, and talking about what has been taking place with those two teams in particular and other things that's been going on in the league. As we all know, maybe about a month and a half ago, I can't remember exactly what day the trade was, but we all know that the Brooklyn Nets acquired James Harden from the Houston Rockets for a whole lot of compensation. Oh my goodness. And it has paid dividends for the Brooklyn Nets. More so than anybody. We know that Kyrie and Kevin Durant was already there going into last season, but unfortunately we know what happened with Kevin Durant. He tore his Achilles a couple years ago in the NBA Finals, and he missed all of last season. We know what happened with the bubble and Kyrie being hurt last year. And so it was a very, very rough year for the Brooklyn Nets last year. Now, coming into this season, the expectations were very high with Kyrie, with Kevin Durant already, right? So everybody already had their feeling of the Brooklyn Nets being one of the top teams, not just in the Eastern Conference, but just in the league, period, with just Kyrie and KD. Then a little thing happened maybe about 2 weeks into the season. James Harden decided to kind of give his displeasure with the situation in Houston. Russell Westbrook was traded to the Washington Wizards for John Wall, and I believe it was a couple of picks. So that was a big deal. And James Harden and Russell Westbrook didn't particularly gel well last season. So a move had to be made. I didn't know that neither guy wasn't going to be in the Houston Rockets uniform at this point. And lo and behold, again, going into the season, it was like, okay, James Harden doing his thing with the Houston Rockets, and we're going to see what happens. But again, maybe a week or two into the season, James Harden decided to... He kind of gave his displeasure with the situation that was going on in Houston and decided that he wanted to get out of that situation. He ended up getting out of that situation and going to Brooklyn to align himself with KD and Kyrie to form this ridiculous, superhuman almost, super team, big three, whatever y'all want to call it. And again, it's paid dividends for the Brooklyn Nets. It's helped Brooklyn tremendously. I thought it would help Houston as well. I think that James Harden needed to get out of that situation in order to compete for a championship. I think that Houston ran its course in the past couple of seasons, and they just weren't going anywhere. I think they reached that glass ceiling. And so I think for both parties involved, at least I thought it would have worked. At least for Brooklyn, they've done great. But as far as the Houston Rockets, they have the second worst record in the Western Conference. So for them, it hasn't been pretty for Houston. But let's talk about Brooklyn for a minute, shall we? Again, we know the big three, Kyrie, KD, James Harden. Can't stress that enough. And since getting James Harden, as we speak right now, February 24th, 2021, the Brooklyn Nets are 14-5. and since acquiring James Harden, and they have the second best record in the Eastern Conference. Only the 76ers have a better record than them. And to be quite honest with you, I've watched these Brooklyn games. They've been give or take. On one hand, it's an offensive juggernaut with KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. Three of the best scorers probably in the entire league, right? And so you know that they're going to score a lot of points. But you also know something is going to lack. And I know that defense is, especially with James Harden in the past few years, hasn't been his strongest point. Even though I think defensively he's a little underrated. I think people kind of give him a little bit of crap for not really reasons that's valid. I mean, if you really look at his stats, his defensive efficiency has actually went up in the past few years before he actually left Houston. So I don't think defensively he's as bad as what people make him out to be. But you always knew that was going to be a question with James Harden, with KD, with Kyrie. And so with that being said, they just look unstoppable right now, to be quite honest with you. We know who the defending champs are. That's the Los Angeles Lakers. They're actually third in the Western Conference. They're actually like a half game behind the Clippers right now, as we speak. And I think they'll be fine. Right now, AD's hurt. Anthony Davis is hurt. And Montrezl Harrell has been kind of banged up a little bit. And so LeBron has had to carry this load by himself. And I think down the stretch, that's going to be an issue. So let's talk about the Lakers while we're there. So right now, as we speak, now mind y'all, LeBron James is 36 years old, y'all. 36. If y'all go to the RDC World 1 video, y'all know why that 36 reference is freaking hilarious. But anyway, LeBron James is 36 years old, and as we speak right now, LeBron James is averaging 35 minutes per game. I know LeBron James is the most well-conditioned athlete probably in the history of sports, and you can probably debate that. I mean, his conditioning and the miles that he has put on his body is a lot. But I think that LeBron James needs to pull back just a little bit. And I don't know what Frank Vogel and them boys, are doing in regards to that, but I don't think he should be playing nearly as many minutes as that. But again, with AD being hurt, with Montrezl Harrell being banged up, with Caldwell Pope struggling from the three-point line, I mean, my God, he's shooting less than 20% from three in like the last 10 games. He hasn't been as consistent. Kuz hasn't been as consistent. LeBron James has to carry this load. He's averaging almost 26 points per game, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists a game. And a steal, if you want to just throw that little stat in there. So LeBron James is doing LeBron James things, but again, they really need to be careful with his minutes. And we know LeBron James is not a fan of load management, which is actually a good thing. But still, if you're going to compete for a championship, you have to really restrict his minutes, and other guys have to step up. I know Alec Caruso is that spark plug, but he doesn't really play a lot of minutes. Again, you have Montrezl Harrell, you have Morris, you have Kuz, you have other guys on that team that can score, but it's just not enough. And because I'm picking Brooklyn and the Lakers to be the championship. But if it comes down to those two teams, because James Harden and Kyrie and KD don't have to play a lot of minutes like LeBron James is right now, I think that's going to hurt LeBron in the future. So they just have to really be careful at monitoring that man's minutes. So let's look at the league right now. So right now, again, Philadelphia is the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Brooklyn is 2, Milwaukee's 3, Indiana's 4, Toronto's 5, the Boston Celtics is 6. Boy, they are struggling right now, the Boston Celtics. The Knicks are 7, and the Chicago Bulls is 8. But they're actually right now, they're tied with the Charlotte Hornets, my residency right now down in Charlotte. They're actually tied for that 8th and final seed as we speak. and then Miami's just right outside of there. If you look at the Eastern Conference right now, a lot of those teams are pretty much fighting for playoff position, and there's only right now 5 teams or 4 teams rather, that are above 500, and that's Philly, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and Indiana. The rest of the Eastern Conference is pretty much jogging for position right now. And then if you look at the Western Conference, the Utah Jazz is number 1, Clippers is number 2, Lakers number 3, Phoenix Suns is number 4, the Spurs is number 5, Trailblazers 6, Nuggets 7, and the Warriors 8, with the Dallas Mavericks kind of knocking on that door at 9. So it's very competitive in the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference is pretty much where it's at as far as the conferences right now. But I think that what's going to happen down the stretch, once the All-Star break happens in March, it feels so weird saying that, because the All-Star break actually should be, I think it's right now, usually in the league. But if you, down the stretch, it's going to be very interesting to see what teams end up in the playoffs and end up jockeying for position. I'm really interested to see what the Pelicans are going to do. They've been kind of, here and there, they've been playing good basketball. They're so young and inexperienced, and I think Zion and Brandon Ingram is a good one too. But I don't know. It's something about the Pelicans that they lack something, and I don't know if it's them not having Drew Holiday that hurts them, or having some kind of locker room leadership that hurts them. But it's something about the Pels. I think the Pels should be better than where they are right now. If you look at the Eastern Conference, I thought the Atlanta Hawks will be in a better position than they are right now, with Trae Young and those guys over there. Hopefully they get it together pretty soon. My doggone Detroit Pistons, boy. Again, y'all see the hat, man. I mean, look, I love my Pistons. I'm going to always ride with my Pistons. I'm Detroit through and through, Michigan born, raised through and through. But boy, they're 9-22. Again, second worst record in all of basketball. And I think that they have some talent there. I mean, Grant is really good. Josh Jackson is really good. I just don't think they have enough. Blake's not even playing. Blake was ready to get out of there. It's just a mess. And I mean, yes, I think Dwayne Casey's a good coach, but I just don't think they have enough right now. And they're just in the doldrums. I mean, they just traded away Derrick Rose for Dennis Smith Jr. Dennis Smith, we know, super athletic. He can play. I mean, but is it going to change the culture there? I don't think so. I don't think it's really going to do anything. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with Blake Griffin and his contract, because, God, leave that contract. I'm be honest with y'all, I didn't even like Blake Griffin getting there in the first place. That's just me personally. But they needed a name, and they needed a spark. They needed something. And I mean, they made the playoffs a couple times with Blake being there, and then they got swept the one time. LeBron's last year in Cleveland, they got swept in 2018. So it's just like, I mean, they just look so terrible right now. I love my team, but good grief. But anyway, let me know what y'all think about the Brooklyn Nets. Do y'all think? And so let me, before I even get to that, let me just ask y'all a question. Who do y'all pick as to who do y'all think is gonna win the whole thing? It's kind of early to tell right now. If I had to take an educated guess, at full strength, I think the Lakers down the stretch will be the better team. But again, it all remains to be seen. It all depends on what LeBron James' minutes are looking like down the stretch. But I think Brooklyn is coming out of the East. I don't see no one beating them in a 7-game series. I don't see Milwaukee doing it. Philly may give them a run, because Joel Embiid right now, if I had to pick an MVP, is Joel Embiid. He's playing outstandingly great basketball, if that's even a word. He's playing outstanding basketball right now. But I still think Brooklyn if they was to have all three guys, KD, Kyrie, and James Harden at full strength in a 7-game series, I don't see no one beating them. I don't see no one beating them. So I think that they're coming out the East. I think the Lakers are still coming out of the West. But let me know what y'all think. Who do y'all think is the best team in the league right now? Who do y'all think is coming out of the East and the West? Let me know down in the comment section. Again, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I will holler at y'all next time. All right, Biscay, out. And I'll check y'all out next time.